In order to make the solve function pay attention to walls, I am going to start out simple by looking only at the north wall. So let's suppose we have a wall right here. I need to know how the position of this wall is related to the cell that we're looking at. So the first thing I need to know is what's the position of this cell. It's row 0, row 1, row 2, so it's row 2, and it's column 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So column 4. The wall here is row 0, row 1, row 2, and column, let's see, column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. It turns out that the coordinates for the cell that we are looking at match the coordinates of the north wall. And it turns out it's also the same for the west wall. To implement this functionality in our program, the first thing we need to do are create a couple variables similar to neighboring cell row and neighboring cell column. We will call them neighboring wall row and neighboring wall column. They're declared as bytes because it turns out they'll never be negative. And for now we're just setting them equal to I and j because the north wall, since we're only looking at the north wall and we know that the north wall's coordinates are the same as the cell that we're looking at, we don't need to add or subtract anything to these values. Next, it's time to create a variable to keep track of whether or not a wall exists. I'm going to do that by creating a variable, a boolean, called wall exists. And I will set it equal to false. I will assume that a wall does not exist. Once I do that, I am going to pull information from the walls arrays to determine if a wall does indeed exist. So now, because the north wall will always be a horizontal wall, I am pulling the information from the horizontal walls array, and all I have to do is put in the neighboring wall row and the neighboring wall column, which in this case are just I and j, and it will reference the value that's in the cell, that's in that portion of the array, and set it to, or put it into this wall exists variable. Once this variable has information from this array telling it whether or not a wall exists, I need to use that information to determine whether or not I actually want to update the cell above the cell that I'm looking at. I only want to update the information above the cell that I'm looking at if no wall exists. So I'm going to add an additional command here, or an additional condition, by using the AND operator, and say if a wall does not exist. So I'm using the not symbol in front of wall exists. So to recap, what's happening is, as we go through this loop, the wall row and the wall column are assigned values from I and j. So we're looking at the north wall. A wall exists variable is created. The wall exists variable is set equal to whatever is in the horizontal walls array. We're pulling information from that array and plopping it into this variable. And then we use this variable to determine if we update the cell above the cell that we're looking at. We only update if a wall does not exist. Pay attention to the not operator. Once you've made these changes to your program, go ahead and upload them to your Arduino. Run your program, and you will see that, eureka, we have success. The cell to the north has not been updated because there's a wall to the north separating these two cells. Unfortunately, the cells to the east, south, and west have not been updated as well, and that's because our program is always referring to the wall to the north. Even when we're looking east or south or west, this is always asking us if there's something to the north. And so what we need to do is only use this command when we're looking north. So I am going to add an if statement right here that says if k equals north, and then let's try and run this. Let's upload it again and see what happens when we run the program now. And here, the cell to the north is not updated, but the cells to the east, south, and west are updated. The next step is to try and get our program to pay attention to this west wall as well.